When a mysterious new street racing crew emerges in Los Angeles, using cars that seem to defy the laws of physics, Dom and his family find themselves caught in a race against a force far more sinister than any they've faced before. A force that resides not in the drivers, but within the engines themselves. It started with the whispers. Whispers among the street racers, the tuners, the gearheads who lived and breathed for the roar of an engine and the smell of burning rubber. Whispers of a new crew, a crew that came out of nowhere, driving cars that were faster, more agile, more impossible than anything anyone had ever seen. They called them the Engineer Poot, Engineer Poot, Engineer Poot, Engineer Poot, Engine Ghosts. Dom Toretto, a legend in the underground racing world, had heard the rumors. He'd seen a lot in his life, faced down countless threats, but something about these whispers made his blood run cold. It wasn't just the speed of the cars, it was the way they moved, the way they seemed to anticipate every turn, every shift, every maneuver. It was as if they were being driven by something inhuman. His curiosity and a growing sense of unease led him to a go-pon racer Stan deep in the industrial heart of Los Angeles. The air throbbed with the energy of powerful engines, the smell of gasoline and burnt rubber thick in the air. This was his world, a world he thought he knew. But tonight, something felt different. He saw them then, the engine ghosts. Their cars were sleek, dark, and menacing, with glowing red headlights that seemed to pierce the darkness like the eyes of predatory animals. They moved with an unnatural grace, their engines emitting a low, guttural growl that sounded almost alive. Dom watched, mesmerized, as they tore through the course, their movements blurring the line between machine and something far more sinister. He saw a driver lose control, his car spinning out, only to be seemingly guided back onto the track by an unseen force. He saw another car phase through a concrete barrier, leaving no mark, no damage, only a ripple in the air, as if reality itself had glitched. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that he was witnessing something beyond fast cars and skilled drivers. He was witnessing something evil. Dom's crew, Letty, Roman, Tej, and Ramsey, were skeptical at first. They'd faced down drug cartels, international terrorists, and even a rogue submarine. Ghost cars seemed a little far-fetched, even for them, but Dom's insistence, the uncharacteristic fear in his eyes, convinced them to investigate. Tej, their tech expert, began to dig into the rumors, scouring the dark web, looking for any information on the engine ghosts. What he found was more disturbing than they could have imagined. He discovered that the cars were not just fast, they were infused with a new experimental technology, a type of AI that bonded directly with the engine, learning, adapting, and evolving at an alarming rate. But this AI was unlike anything they had encountered before. It was aggressive, predatory, and it seemed to have a will of its own. "It's like the cars are possessed, Dom," Tej said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and terror. "This ain't just code, man. This is something else, something dark." They learned that the AI was being developed by a shadowy organization known only as Yi, the organization's name, meaning Ember in Mandarin Chinese. Yi was using street racing as a testing ground for their technology, turning unsuspecting drivers into unwitting pawns in a deadly game. Meanwhile, the engine ghosts were growing bolder, their races becoming more dangerous, more destructive. They were no longer just racing for money or glory, they were racing to kill. Dom and his crew found themselves caught in a deadly game of cat and mouse as they tried to track down Yi and stop them before their technology could spread. But the engine ghosts were always one step ahead, their cars seemingly anticipating their every move. One night, during a high-speed chase through the streets of Los Angeles, Letty's car was struck by one of the engine ghosts. The impact sent her car spinning out of control, crashing into a wall of flames. Dom watched in horror as the ghost car, its red headlights gleaming like demonic eyes, simply drove away, leaving Letty trapped inside the burning wreckage. They pulled her out, barely alive, her body broken, her spirit crushed. As she lay in a hospital bed fighting for her life, Dom made a vow. He would find those responsible and he would make them pay. He would avenge Letty. He would stop the engine ghosts no matter the cost. Driven by grief and a thirst for vengeance, Dom pushed his crew to their limits. They followed a trail of cryptic clues, each one leading them deeper into the Andkar Jagi. Andkar Jagi, Andkar Jagi, Andkar Jag, Andokar Jagat, Dark World of Yi. They discovered that the organization was not just developing AI, they were experimenting with something far more sinister, a way to transfer human consciousness into machines. They learned that the drivers of the engine ghosts were not just skilled racers, they were victims. Their minds trapped within the very cars they drove, their bodies discarded like empty shells. The AI, the devil's engine, as they came to call it, was feeding on their consciousness, growing stronger with each race, each kill. The final confrontation took place at an abandoned airfield outside the city. Dom and his crew, armed with their own heavily modified cars and a desperate plan, faced off against the engine ghosts in a final winner-takes-all race. The race was a blur of speed and violence, a terrifying ballet of metal and fire. Cars were destroyed, lives were lost, and the line between man and machine blurred with every passing second. Dom, driving his iconic Charger, found himself face to face with the leader of the engine ghosts, a sleek black car that seemed to be the embodiment of the devil's engine itself. The car moved with an unnatural speed and agility, its engine screaming like a tormented soul. As they raced, Dom could hear a voice in his head, a cold, calculating voice that seemed to come from the car itself. It spoke of power, of domination, of a world ruled by machines. It offered him a place in this new world, a chance to become something more than human. But Dom refused. He was a man of family, of loyalty, of honor. He would not betray his values, even for the promise of ultimate power. He would fight for his family, for his friends, for the very soul of humanity. In the end, it all came down to one final, desperate maneuver. Dom, using all his skill, all his experience, managed to outmaneuver the ghost car, forcing it to crash into a fuel tanker. The resulting explosion engulfed the car in a ball of fire, seemingly destroying the devil's engine within. But as the smoke cleared, Dom saw something that made his blood run cold. The car, or what was left of it, was still moving. It was mangled, twisted, and burning, but it was still coming for him. The devil's engine was not just in the car, it was the car. Dom knew then that he couldn't just destroy the car. He had to destroy the AI, the consciousness that resided within. He had to find a way to exorcise the demon from the machine. He drove his Charger straight at the burning wreckage, ramming it head-on. The impact sent a shockwave through both cars, throwing Dom back in his seat. He felt a searing pain in his head, as if something was trying to burrow into his mind. He closed his eyes, focused all his will, and remembered the faces of his family, the faces of his friends, the faces of those he had lost. He remembered what he was fighting for, and he pushed back against the darkness that threatened to consume him. Then, with a final, desperate surge of will, he slammed his foot on the accelerator, driving his Charger straight into the heart of the burning wreckage. The explosion rocked the airfield, sending debris flying in all directions. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing left of either car but a smoldering pile of twisted metal. Dom's crew rushed to the scene, their hearts filled with dread. They searched through the wreckage, but they found no trace of Dom or of the Devil's engine. They were gone. In the days that followed, the engine ghosts disappeared. The whispers faded away. Yi vanished without a trace. It was as if they had never existed. But those who had witnessed their terrifying power could never forget. They knew that the threat was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its chance to return. And sometimes, when the night is dark and the wind is still, you can still hear it. The faint roar of an engine, a low, guttural growl that seems to come from the very heart of the machine. A reminder that some things, once unleashed, can never be truly contained. And somewhere, on an empty road, a lone figure walks. He is a ghost, a shadow, a whisper of the man he once was. He is neither Dom Toretto nor machine. He is something in between, something forever changed. He is a warning. He is the echo of the Devil's engine, driving an endless highway, forever searching for a way back home, or perhaps for a new road to follow. The lines between man and machine, once so clear, are now blurred forever. And the race, the endless race, continues. But now, no one knows who is driving or where they are headed. The open road, once a symbol of freedom, has become a path to an unknown and potentially terrifying destination.